And we're going now back to our main topic of the day to discuss the parliamentary elections in Hungary with our very own Marcin Zaborowski, Europe editor at TVP World, and Wojciech Przybylski, editor-in-chief of Visegrad Insight, who is joining us from Budapest. So, gentlemen, how would you comment on the turnout? The record number of Hungarians indeed took part in the elections this year, but who do you think managed to mobilize their supporters better? And let's start with Marcin Zaborowski.
Well, I think when we look into the numbers, how they are aggregated, it looks like that the regions which have pulled more turnout are Budapest, Sopron, and the area right next to Budapest. And those who have pulled poorly, or fewer people turn up, is the east of the country, which I would say suggests that Tisza is more likely to get a bonus out of that, because Budapest and the area around traditionally voted for the opposition, whereas the east is the real stronghold of Orbán's Fidesz party.
Wojciech Przybylski, do you agree with Marcin's analysis?
Let's start first with saying that this is the record number of people at the ballots in the history of modern Hungary. Never before Hungarians went to vote in general elections at close to 80% of the voters registered. And this is an absolute key moment. The probably only thing that both competing parties are agreeing on, and they are acknowledging and thanking citizens for this clear demonstration of support for the democratic process. It is historic. It is historic. It is going to be remembered in the second place, of course, to the actual result of this moment. But the record turnout also means that most likely Tisza has a strong advantage over Fidesz, and the speculation is mostly whether it can get to the two-thirds majority of seats in the parliament, or it will be simply a landslide victory.
Precisely, because the latest opinion polls in Hungary, published by the Telex news outlet, have showed 55% support for Tisza and 38% for the ruling Fidesz. Again, these are not exit polls, these are just the latest opinion polls from Hungary. Now, what would it mean for the Hungarian political stage if both parties score these exact numbers in the elections? Wojciech Przybylski.
Well, these numbers are indicative of the support overall, but the mixed system, electoral system, in which you have one party, first behind the poll districts, where you have one MP elected per district in 109 constituencies, and the rest is elected from proportional voting, gets these numbers a little bit complicated. The projections that we are also reading from various analytical outlets suggest that Tisza might be close to 133 MPs, just above or just below. We will see, and we will know these numbers for sure only after Thursday, after all the votes are counted. This is the expected date when we will have the results also coming from the diaspora, the voters who have been voting abroad.
Right, Marcin, and what do you think? Will Tisza be satisfied with the simple ruling majority?
Well, Tisza, in order to change the country, would need more than a simple majority, because the party Viktor Orbán has been in power for 16 years. They have a president. They have people in constitutional court. Is completely staffed with Fidesz's loyalists. The same thing about budget council, not to mention state-owned companies or even the private companies which are used to contracts or rely on government's contracts. These are also staffed very often with Fidesz's loyalists. So in order to change the country effectively, the new prime minister would need, if Tisza wins, which by no means is certain at this point in time. We're only speculating still. So if Tisza wins, then of course it will be much, much easier if they get the constitutional majority. This is what Viktor Orbán got in 2010. And he managed to change the country very, very effectively. Perhaps not to this country's advantage, that depends on your reading of that, but only a constitutional majority allows for that. And if that happens, then Tisza would actually have an easier job than Donald Tusk's government in this country after 2023. They never had anything close to constitutional majority, and as we know, the job of transitioning has been very difficult in Poland after that.
Right. So when is the time that we stop speculating? When will we learn the final results?
I think it's going to be in the really, really final results. It's going to be days.
Mm-hmm. Because of the diaspora? Because
of the diaspora. Diaspora votes will be counted on the 16th and 17th, the final, and it's about 500,000 of diaspora members who have registered for voting, and 500,000 in the voting population of 7.5 million is a sizable number. So the really official results, we would need to wait for that few days. But we probably by the end of today, we will know which way it's going. And whether this is the end of a 16-year of rule of Viktor Orbán, or if it's not, how large the scale of victory for the Peter Magyar's party will be.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to Wojciech Przybylski now to Budapest. So the emotions within the Hungarian society are, flying high, and both sides have accused each other of plans to illegally alter the outcome of the elections. So were many violations of the election process observed in Hungary today?
Regardless of the irregularities, I was just attending Peter Magyar's first press conference after the vote, and he called to stay calm. He called for his voters not to be provoked, not to also be incentivized to any sort of verbal or physical, even more, violence. This is very important, that the process of handing over power, which is expected based on the current numbers and the turnout, is going to take place peacefully without the kind of provocations that Fidesz has been already speculating about. So we know that this is the government's narrative to supposedly, put the blame for a potential unrest, potential event, into the current opposition to the contenders for power. But we know that the main message of Tisza party officially is to stay calm, let the votes be counted, and wait, as Marcin just mentioned, probably until the end of the day, by morning the latest, to know already partial results that will be coming from the districts, when this will be 0-1 results for one or the other candidate of the parties to be taking a mandate. And from these numbers, we will know which direction it is going. The irregularities have been reported, of course. There were also civil society monitoring watchdogs. There was unprecedented activity of the civil society that woke up in Hungary to observe, to participate as observers, as watchdogs for the process, and to make sure that nobody's stealing these elections against many who speculated it is possible. I think the numbers themselves speak volumes, and we know that Hungarians clearly have stood ground to defend their democracy.
Hungarians are defending their democracy, while Russia, not a very democratic country, and also the very homeland of democracy, the US, are backing Viktor Orbán. Donald Trump himself even promised to invest heavily in Hungary if Viktor Orbán wins. Marcin, will it have any impact on the final result of this vote today?
First of all, I wanted just to highlight what you just said. I think it's, in my memory, it's probably one of the very few examples when Russia and the United States are agreeing on supporting a candidate in political race.
To add that, there's also China backing Viktor Orbán.
Right,
Well.
so we have China, United States and Russia, a very interesting, very powerful, but also somehow exotic alliance, one might say. And as we know, Vice President J.D. Vance, before he got to Islamabad, to Pakistan, he actually he went to Hungary, where he spent 2 days, and he very openly endorsed Viktor Orbán. In fact, at the rally, he even called President Trump, and President Trump himself spoke to the crowd, endorsing very explicitly Viktor Orbán. If the election polls are correct, those that we have seen, it would be of no significance whatsoever. Meaning that a lot of the voters said that it didn't swing their vote, quite the opposite. Our country wouldn't be affected or influenced by other countries. And by the way, Viktor Orbán ran the campaign that I'm a peace candidate. I'm a peace candidate, and that's why please vote for me. And then he has J.D. Vance coming there, representative of the country which is running a war in Iran now, not quite appearing as a peace candidate. So, and Hungarians are feeling the impact on that at the pumping stations, at the petrol stations.
Right, Wojciech Przybylski, the very last question to you, and briefly, please, will this be a peaceful night in Budapest?
Well, I believe it is going to be a peaceful night, a cheerful night. One important note on the J.D. Vance, when he came here, it was too little too late from the point of view of the campaign. But what he got, and he get out of Budapest, was actual contract for oil delivery that switched the dependency from Russia to the American oil. So this is skillful American diplomacy, I would say, that used the electoral moment and the weakness of Viktor Orbán to probably negotiate the best deal for the American side.
Wojciech Przybylski, editor-in-chief of Visegrad Insight from Budapest, and Marcin Zaborowski, Europe editor at TVP World, were our guests this evening. Gentlemen, thank you very much. And thank you for watching, and stay with us for more interviews and news here on TVP World.